Welcome to the shop. This is Jake B-Man with Golden Fox Farms in the garage today to examine repairing some equipment. This will be our first foray into the shop series where we'll look at the stuff we often break as beekeepers and examine those things that are cost effective for us to repair if we have the knowledge and tools and skills to do so safely. The first thing we'll take apart is actually my oxalic acid gun. I had about 70 hives left this year when the heating element shorted out, or at least that's what I think is wrong with it. I was able to borrow friends and finish what I had left to do that day, so no harm, no foul. And in fairness, this machine got through 900 single deep doses before it broke down, so that's a pretty good experience. We will examine the parts of this machine, what can go wrong with them, and how to repair them in a practical and open-ended sense. Okay, so let's have a look at this thing. This is my Terminator MK350 oxalic acid gun. It is an earlier model. In later models, they actually changed this to a larger hose, and they have a different crucible attachment method. But the reality is, every one of these guns from every manufacturer have a lot of things in common, and we'll take advantage of that. This is a 120 volt unit. This is the end of the power cord, so it's unplugged. What was going on was my temperature was set correctly, but it just wasn't responding. The temperature was still going down, which suggests there's something wrong with the heating vessel. These devices are all pretty much the same at the end of the day. There is a box that holds the circuitry and controls. There is a PID controller that stands for proportional integral derivative. It's a fancy way of saying smart controller. It kind of predicts how much juice it needs to dump into the crucible to heat it properly. There is a on-off switch, which is common on these things. And on the front end, we have the actual crucible. The crucible is this vessel here. This is where the oxalic acid goes in and gets heated. This band is what actually does the heating. This is a band heater. And then, it heats up and it comes out of this nozzle and discharges. Now, this is a resistance heater. What that means is when you push electricity through this, it resists the flow of it, and that causes heat to be generated. And when I tested this with a testing device, this thing had the wrong response. That's why I'm pretty sure it's this. Also, if you go to the manufacturer's page, this is one of the things they actually sell replacements of. I have a generic bought off of Amazon. We'll look at that when we get that part opened up. Now, in terms of the internals, again, it's going to be mostly the same regardless of manufacturer. We have, again, the PID unit. This is the thermal controller. It's hooked up to a thermocouple. And this thing's towards the back, this kind of beefy looking thing, is the relay. That is the actual on-off switch for this heating appliance. So the PID will say, oh, hey, we need to kick the heater on. It sends the signal to this thing, and this thing actually kicks the heater on. The reason why they've separated these is the closer you have this to your heat source, the better off you will be. The shorter these wires are, the better off you will be. But also, these tend to put off a lot of heat. You'll notice this thing's attached to an aluminum plate by itself, which probably acts like a heat sink, and it keeps the PID away from that where it's cool and safe. So anyway, we'll test to see why I think it's the heating band that is broken, and then we'll start taking it apart. Okay, so we have my convenient multimeter here set to resistance. Now, a resistance band heater should have some amount of resistance, but it shouldn't be all resistance, or it shouldn't be no resistance. This thing's set up to where if there's zero resistance, it makes that little bell noise. So if we follow these wires, which are the blue and white stripes, and connect our probes to it, we should have some amount of resistance in there. And the reality is, I'm not getting a response. The reason why I'm not getting a response, the wires are totally burned through somewhere inside of this unit. So there's no connectivity between point A and point B on that thing. That's why I say the heater band is what's bad on this. So let's get some tools to take apart this heater band and get it replaced, and we'll see if that magically causes the gun to work afterwards. Let's look at this thing more closely. This screw passes through this porcelain isolator up into the bottom of the crucible. So if I remove that screw, I should be able to take this band off this way. So let's see if that works. I'll use my absurdly large pry bar, or half tool rather. Might need to massage this thing from both sides to keep from shattering her. There we go. And of course it just knocked some of the old oxalic acids in here into this, so we'll want to shake that out because I'm sure that's good for the electronics. Okay, so we've got this thing. Alright, that's good. And this might be a tell of what happened to this thing. When this thing gets hot, it gets hot. And any water or anything gets on the outside of this is going to end up down here and causing trouble. You can admittedly clean these with water when you use them, but water is pretty much the electricity's worst nightmare. So that might be where our problem originated. So anyway, let's take this band off. That's probably enough. You know, I might need to remove. It's free, but it's pinned by this thing. So let's give that thing a partial twist out. And of course, remember your lefty loosies. Alright, that should figure out just fine. Oh, she's still kind of sticking it, isn't she? I might need to take this screw all the way out and really flex it to get in there. Okay, here's the band. Alright, that's the heater free. Now that's the thermocouple. Leave that in there. That's what tells the PID what the temperature is. Okay, now we need to get this thing out. This thing has these convenient quick clips. It shouldn't matter which way we put it back together, just because, well, it's a resistance heater. It doesn't matter to them which way they're going. Yeah, let's just knock those off. We don't need no stinking wires. Probably shouldn't leave that in there though. Let's back those wires on out. Now, if we took the time to look this up and measure it and everything, we'd find out this is a 35 by 35 band heater that runs at 380 watts with 120 volts, which is conveniently what we bought from the big smiley face people. We're going to put this together the same way the last one came out, with the wires going down and parallel the thermocouple. So we have to kind of tweak it to get the right size in there. Okay. And the other one went right underneath that, so that's where I'll put that one as well. All right. Install the band there. Use our longer old screw. It's going to go this way this time, just by virtue of how I've lined everything up. If I can line these up like a sharpshooter, aren't I? I already see the band is not engaging fully on these sides. So what I'm going to do is back that screw out just a little and just kind of love tap those edges in. Because we want this thing to be pretty snug and tight all the way around on this crucible so we get the most heat delivered from this band into it. Well, that's getting some decent force on it. It's not a perfect fit, but it might be as good as it ever was at the factory. All right. All right, that should do that. Now we need to get these wires into there. So I'll start by taking this block off. All right, so now I need to attach those two wire ends to whatever I'm going to attach them to. If I have these, I can use crimps to do this. And I actually think I do have these, so let me go look. And I do! Okay. So we can just replace these with these. These are shielded. They have this extra booting over them. They'll work fine. You've got to be aware. They cost a little more. They're more for making sure you don't short against something else, but we can use it for this application. So that's a female because it holds the other one. And we had one female in here, and we had one male in here. And there's a male, which is just a straight blade that slips into the female one. We want a crimp tool to assemble these. Crimpy tool. Now with this thing, we take the blue crimps and we crimp it in the blue cramp spot. Right. And we're going to put that wire in to where the wire is inside the spot that gets crushed and crush it together. And that should do that. I'll do the same trick on this thing. Alrighty. You can just give it a little baby pull to see if they stay together. And one end goes to one thing, one end goes to the other. The female goes to the male on the relay. So we'll push that together. Ugh. Nice tight fit. And the male goes to this thing on this device. So we'll put those together. Alright, they seem to fit well. Now we need to finish getting this thing put to this thing. Now something we should do at this point is check that resistance. Because again, we want some amount of resistance in a resistance heater, and that'll tell us if we're wasting our time here, or at least might tell us a little bit of something. So it should at least have some amount of signal. I don't know if I could get into the pieces. I have built this too well. Alright, we have a signal coming across, and it's 37 ohms, which is about where these resistance heaters should ballpark. So that should fix our problem. So let's finish reassembling this thing. Alright, I'm going to reinstall this. This is the isolation plate. Keeps the unit from heating up that metal bar. Okay, that's that. That's all pushed together. This mounts on this bar here. Oh, that is a tight fit. That is a split ring down. They are just really tight things. And that screw goes there. This is a number 3 screw. You do want to use a number 3 screwdriver if you have a number 3 screw. It's just a bigger version of the Phillips we're used to. The most common screw Phillips you'll encounter is a number 2. This is just a bigger version. And we'll screw that together tight. This actually lives in my Oxalic toolkit box because this screw has a tendency to back out during the day. Then we're going to put this back together. And you guys didn't see me take this apart. It's only held together by 6 little screws. Can you tell I've had a coffee today? How much that screwdriver tip's moving? That's tight. And these are just screws going into plastic bungs, so don't wrench the holy spadoinkle out of these little things, or you'll just bust it. It's pretty alright. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to see if this turns on and starts to heat. And rock it on. Okay, it's set to 235. It's 17 degrees now. Let's see if that number starts coming up. Well, there's smoke coming off of the new ring, so that's a pretty good sign it's heating up. I'm going to say I was trying to shoot a double when I had this thing stop working. Let's see. The double would be a half a teaspoon. You know what? This might actually be 2 of those put together. In a perfect world, I'd be wearing gloves for all of this, but as a chemist for so long, my common sense is gone. So, forgive me. If I got this in a cut, I'd be yowling. That much I can say for sure. You can tell I was never a cocaine dealer from how much I'm spilling. Okay. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stage this to let it run, and then I'm going to go make a cup of coffee so I don't get gassed when this goes off. Well, judging from that temperature and the smoke I saw belting out of this thing while I was inside making another cup of coffee, I'm going to call this thing fixed. So with that, I'll say good luck and happy beaking.